Hello dear friends, enjoy watching. The attainment of wholeness requires one to stake one's whole being. Nothing less will do. There can be no easier conditions, no substitutes, no compromises. Only a life lived in a certain spirit is worth living. It is a remarkable fact that a life lived entirely from the ego is dull not only for the person himself but for all concerned. As a plant produces its flower, so the psyche creates its symbols. One must be able to let things happen. The only thing we have to fear on this planet is man. Just as we tend to assume that the world is as we see it, we naively suppose that people are as we imagine them to be. The greatest potential for growth and self-realization exists in the second half of life. Nature does not deceive or conceal, but reveals. There is a deep need in the world just now for guidance, almost any sort of spiritual guidance. If there is anything that we wish to change in the child, we should first examine it and see whether it is not something that could better be changed in ourselves. Children are educated by what the grown-up is and not by his talk. The doctor is effective only when he himself is affected. Only the wounded physician heals. It is a fact that cannot be denied. The wickedness of others becomes our own wickedness because it kindles something evil in our own hearts. Resistance to the organized mass can be effected only by the man who is as well organized in his individuality as the mass itself. Whatever is rejected from the self appears in the world as an event. I am no longer alone with myself, and I can only artificially recall the scary and beautiful feeling of solitude. This is the shadow side of the fortune of love. I do not believe, I know. Modern man is sick because he is not whole. The decisive question for man is he related to something infinite or not? That is the telling question of his life. The true leader is always led. Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness. Like the sea itself, the unconscious yields an endless and self-replenishing abundance of creatures, a wealth beyond our fathoming. When an individual does not become conscious of their inner contradictions, the world acts out the conflict and is torn in opposite halves. Nothing is possible without love. The unconscious psyche believes in life after death. I don't believe there is a God. I know there is a God. The creative process is a living thing, implanted, as it were, in the souls of men. Masses are always breeding grounds of psychic epidemics. Learn your theories as well as you can, but put them aside when you touch the miracle of the living soul. How can I be substantial if I do not cast a shadow? I must have a dark side also if I am to be whole. The healthy man does not torture others. A creative person has little power over his own life. He is not free. He is captive and driven by his daimon. Most of our difficulties come from losing contact with our instincts, with the age-old forgotten wisdom stored up in us. Synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence of two or more events where something other than the probability of chance is involved. The divine process of change manifests itself to our human understanding as punishment, torment, death, and transfiguration. Called or not, God is always there. Warmth is the vital element for the growing plant and for the soul of the child. People cannot stand too much reality. You are a slave of what you need in your soul. We know that the wildest and most moving dramas are played not in the theater but in the hearts of ordinary men and women. Nature is not matter only. She is also a spirit. Myth is more individual and expresses life more precisely than does science. I would rather be whole than good. The world begins to exist when the individual discovers it. Explore daily the will of God. I have always tried to make room for anything that wanted to come to me from within. The mind has grown to its present state of consciousness as an acorn grows into an oak, or as saurians developed into mammals. The psychic depths are nature, and nature is creative life. The creative mind plays with the object it loves. Without this playing with fantasy, no creative work has ever yet come to birth. The debt we owe to the play of the imagination is incalculable. Part of the human self or soul is not subject to laws of space and time. Nobody, as long as he moves about among the chaotic currents of life, is without trouble. Water is the commonest symbol for the unconscious. When you walk with naked feet, how can you ever forget the earth? The artist is not a person endowed with free will who seeks his own ends, but one who allows it to realize its supreme purpose through him. Midlife is the time to let go of an over-dominant ego and to contemplate the deeper significance of human existence. Follow that will in that way which experience confirms to be your own. We should not pretend to understand the world only by the intellect. The judgment of the intellect is only part of the truth. No man can change himself into anything from sheer reason. He can only change into what he potentially is. The right way to wholeness is made up of fateful detours and wrong turnings. The more uncertain I have felt about myself, the more there has grown up in me a feeling of kinship with all things. But if you have nothing at all to create, then perhaps you create yourself. Our intellect has achieved the most tremendous things, but in the meantime our spiritual dwelling has fallen into disrepair. The totality of the psyche can never be grasped by the intellect alone. Life is a luminous pause between two mysteries that are yet one. We have forgotten the age-old fact that God speaks chiefly through dreams and visions. The prerequisite for a good marriage is the license to be unfaithful. What we lack is intensity of life. A sense of a wider meaning to one's existence is what raises a man beyond mere getting and spending. If he lacks this sense, he is lost and miserable. Modern man is battered by the fundamental forces of his own psyche. But we must not forget that only a very few people are artists in life, that the art of life is the most distinguished and rarest of all the arts. Hurry is not of the devil, hurry is the devil. Healing proceeds from the depths to the heights. Real work is completed in silence and strikes a chord in the minds of only a very few. We need more understanding of human nature, because the only real danger that exists is man himself. Knowledge does not enrich us, it removes us more and more from the mythic world in which we were once at home by right of birth. Thanks for watching. Take wisdom from these videos.